And we're back once again, only on its last call. Last call to the alcohol, only on the Last Call YouTube channel. And once again, well, he offered to take Tim Waltz up in his offer. He was ready to show that, hey, MAGA people can actually fight. Unfortunately, Tim Waltz has basically put a restraining order on him. He's afraid this guy will break him in half. I was praying for it. I give you wrestling extraordinaire, conservative, conciliary, and a man who has the largest natural arms in the world. I give you Kevin Apollo. So, Kevin, let's jump right into this here. We start here with the John Cena promo where Kevin, he's divorcing you. He's divorcing all you toxic fans. You betrayed him. He was in a toxic relationship as you didn't see him as a person. Kidding aside, it's a fantastic promo. I want your thoughts because it's not a cool heel. There was no change. He came out with same attire and everything. It's just he's telling people, hey, no, this is who I really am, and if you don't like it, well, go F yourselves.
No, man, I loved it. Thought it was a brilliant promo, great passion, a different direction than what a lot of people were calling for. I'm glad they didn't lean into the cool heel thing. Listen, everybody kind of forgets like National Hall were just naturally cool. So it didn't matter what they did or what they said. They looked cool doing it. They walked cool, they dressed cool, they were cool. So, the birth of the cool heel kind of made things a little complicated. Even Triple H during parts of his during his run was a cool heel. The great suits, the witty turn of phrase. It was a different era, but we've also kind of seen the cool heel done to death over the last 25, 30 years. So I'm glad that the WWE has quietly put it away, because we are in a space where keeping it simple is really the best way to go. So seeing them coming out and not just being the kind of heel, like, right, it's when you're a heel, you lie until you die. He didn't do that. He leaned into what he did, and he put the blame on the fans. Told told some truths from a different point of view, right? He went all Anakin on everybody. The and laid it out, man. And the best part about it, I was talking what we talked about it on Toonie Town, was that I wasn't really up for him doing the suits and the new music. As interesting as it would have been to see, if they did that in 2012 or 2015, that would have been a different story. But this the heel turn stings more for moms and for the kids watching, because he's dressing the same, but he's acting different. He's still familiar to them, and his behavior is so foreign that it's upsetting. And look, and we got proof positive when you looked at that crowd. Those kids looked like they were in agony. So that's listen. Even, and you know what? Even some of the men, even some of the adults, looked like they were in agony. So it's always awesome to see when wrestling affects someone so viscerally. It means it means you got lightning in a bottle. You have a certified winner. So I'm excited to see where they go with it. I know people are like, well, there's no Rock. I'm like, you don't need the Rock. Also, too, with this heel turn, the heel turn isn't about John Cena, right? He's not Hollywood Hogan. He's not sticking around. The story is about Cody dealing with a heel John Cena, not the WWE having to deal with a heel John Cena. So, in my heart of hearts, I pretty much figure even if Cena happens to win the title, he defends it at WrestleMania. I bet he'll probably lose it back to Cody in time for Survivor Series, and by December, he's back to being a babyface John Cena, so that he can leave on a high note. He'll have some kind of dust up with The Rock and everything's back to normal. Or Cody will redeem him somehow. So it's WWE has done a really good job with developing the slow burn story. That's not doesn't mean they're free from criticism. I think Triple H is really struggling to develop a roster as big as he has. With the amount of time that they have. Again, I think one of the things that they need to do is they need another show. They just do. They need a Sunday Night Heat type show where your lower your lower to mid card guys can get on, get their characters over, and maybe have a limited storyline that exists just on that night, because there's a lot of people who are kind of falling to the wayside, and they shouldn't be. And I get it, a lot of them are pretty young, so you have time, but time isn't also guaranteed because you never know what's going to happen. So I think case in point, the Final Testament, that should have been a way bigger that should have been a way bigger group. I would even say what to do with American Alpha right now. American Alpha looks cool. The Creed brothers are beast. Even Ivy, looks like a killer, but they lose a lot. They're on TV, but they lose a lot. And sure, yes, the job of the heel is to inevitably lose, but these guys need a little more momentum in order to be an actual threat. And they've just got to do something a little different with some people, and or be very open about how, if you want to see these characters, you need to follow their social media and the WWE social media, because Karrion Kross is doing some magical work, through his Twitter, and it's getting a little annoying that you're not seeing it on TV.
Let's get back to the Cena thing here, because I know critics are going, "Oh, this if it's there is no story, blah blah blah," or hey, he why did he smirk back down? Let's talk about challenges here. He can't get physical a lot. I'm guessing because of his Hollywood, shows and everything, and his movies, they have contracts saying, "Hey, all right, you're wrestling, but we don't want you to get injured, because if you do, that means delays. That means we can move on from you." I mean, this is Hollywood. They don't want people to
Yeah.
do something stupid, get injured, and they have to wait. So, how tough is it right now, where this promo happened in Europe, which different crowd. They just love being part of the show. So
Mhm.
it's not MSG that he's not gonna get physical till WrestleMania. But basically, it's a prequel almost. There's gonna be an ending, which is December 31st, 2025, and then after that, he's done. So they have to really do things differently than what a usual heel turn would be.
The well, listen, it's some some of it is we kind of have to accept the new reality. They are now a global company. The loyalty to these smaller markets, at affordable price points, that was a Vince thing. Vince is long gone. Nick Khan sees things very differently. We talked about this a couple months ago. Just look at the price point for WrestleMania. The WWE is kind of tiptoeing around jumping into the MLB, NFL, NBA price point. So really, like when you think about it, the only blue collar sporting event you got left right now is hockey, right? And guess what? If you're a Rangers fan, you're still paying through the nose, So it's they're gonna go overseas more because the overseas market to them is wide open, and unlike the NFL, NBA, MLB, they have the ability to tackle that market faster and more efficiently and maximize it. Right out the box. Europe, you know, they don't get a lot for as big as Europe is, right? As culturally diverse as Europe is, as many stars have come out of there, music, acting, whatever. they don't really get a lot in terms of live spectacle events. So it is a big deal, when they go. I know people here were complaining about the crowd, but I looked at I looked at two different opinions. One was my wife, who only pops in and watches it every once in a blue moon, and the other one was a lapsed fan, but was a long-term fan until around I want to say 2016. They both loved the crowd's energy because it was different for them. Yes, sure, fine, MSG is home, it's the wrestling mecca, but that Garden crowd was on fire. They ate up everything that they got. And again, the story's about Cody, which is why Cody was in the Garden. The I don't think you can get much more heat than having 20,000 people say F you. It's kind of like it just kind of sounds like it kind of sounds like when you take your kids to Toys R Us and your oldest kid is pissed off that they didn't get the toy that the older kid, that the middle kid got. We just got to kind of suck it up. We got to share. They're going to exploit that European market. I'm sure within probably about 3 years, they're going to expand that European tour schedule tremendously. And it'll probably be an equal split. Well, maybe not so much an equal split, but I bet they're probably going to try to go for like a 30, a 70-30 split. 30% of their time being in Europe. And we haven't even touched on, developing Japan, developing India, even parts of Africa. They want it all, and it's they'd be foolish not to go get it. So this is the new normal. We got to learn how to share. We got to learn how to adapt to these crowds and just kind of roll with it.
So before we move on from Cena here, so how do you play this in terms of the next few weeks? Because you have 2 more weeks of Cena on TV. Then as soon as they get back to the United States, boom, he's gone. He's not coming back till WrestleMania. So how tough is it for Cody to sort of carry this when Cena's not there? Like, because people like me will argue Cena's going to move on after this. Cody beats him at WrestleMania. Have Cena have Cody start feuding with Drew. Actually, start pushing guys who are there long term, and have Cena start jobbing to guys like Breaker,
Mhm.
Jacob Fatu, turn one of those guys. Both seem to go into babyface route. Like, actually use Cena to start making that next level star, that guy that you can go, okay, when Cody decides to leave for Hollywood, boom, this is the next guy up.
Uh, I think people need to accept that John Cena is not going to be making. He may fight Jacob Fatu, maybe. Maybe he fights Breaker. That's about it, though. John Cena is a main eventer. He is the main eventer. We need to be clear about what John Cena is. He is an anomaly. Even Bruno got told it was time to wrap it up. John Cena left on his own accord. While he was still on top. You put John Cena's name in the marquee. He sold more tickets and more merchandise than everybody. He left because he wanted to leave. We have not seen that. Again, Hogan, hey pal, it's time to wrap it up. This isn't working. He goes to WCW. The Hulk Hogan character is a dud in WCW. Hollywood came because it had to be, because he had to make the change. Um, Cena is an upper echelon elite level character. He's only going to be working with characters who need to be pushed into upper echelon. That's why this is all about Cody. He may turn around and do a couple favors for, an Orton. I think, we all know that Randy Orton is a first ballot Hall of Famer, but he does kind of get slept on a little bit because he spent so much time as a heel and because he was around so consistently. But think about it. We probably only have a few more years left of Randy Orton, tops, tops. So, and honestly, I think Orton's really the one who should be breaking the record, in my opinion. But I think we're probably going to get Cena Orton one more time. I think you're going to get some of the greatest hits. You're going to get Cena Punk. You're going to get Cena Orton, and then you may get Cena. I wouldn't be shocked if on his way out, you got a little Cena Gunther or a Cena Jacob Fatu. Just something to establish who the next big heel is. In terms of moving the story along, that's not that difficult. John Cena doesn't have to be there to be a presence. The He can phone he can they can do pre-recorded vignettes. Someone can jump Cody from behind. They can use proxy problem makers. The Rock will pop up more frequently the closer you get to WrestleMania. So I don't think The Rock is filming anything overseas. We also don't know what they have worked out for John Cena, right? Like when John Cena decided to do this goodbye tour, this was planned out well in advance. Also, too, I have a friend who does work for Lloyd's of London. He does work with the celebrities. He actually told me long before, he told me months in advance that the WWE was trying to get Brett back for one more match and that their doctors were like, no way in hell. And, so their insurance policies are actually really very tough. They are learning how to try to make exceptions for wrestling. But yes, Cena is going to be limited in what he can do. But he's on certain dates, so he's going to try to squeeze it as much as he can when he can. And as long as nothing happens where he's in danger of derailing whatever he's supposed to be shooting, I don't think you're going to see much of an issue. Again, Cena was in Brussels because Cena is in Europe filming. Cena wasn't in the Garden because he was in Europe filming. They made it very clear the heel turn happened. He jumped on a plane and had to go to work. Again, it's just kind of one of those things. We've seen these storylines before. Also, too, there is no reason for Cena and Cody to be physical before Mania. I think of some of the best builds across wrestling. The two guys who were fighting didn't touch until just before they had to go fight. Not everything needs to be, the constant war of attrition that was Dusty Flair or was or was Vince Austin or Rock Austin, even Cena Orton, or whoever it was Triple H was going to eat. Sometimes you just need to, well, again, I think one of the greatest ones of all time, Taz and Sabu. Taz and Sabu. They did not touch until that main event. I think this is another instance where they're not going to touch until that main event. And again, we haven't seen The Rock pop up yet, so we don't know what The Rock is going to tell them to do. Who knows? Who knows? Maybe you turn around and Jacob Fatu is the proxy. Is the proxy for The Rock. And now Cody has a really big pain in the ass to deal with. I just listen. It's a good time to be a wrestling fan. I say just chill out, let the story flow the way it's going to flow. They very rarely blow the WrestleMania main events, right? It's a rarity. Like even same thing with Jay and Gunther. I know that it's the cool kid thing to do to bitch about Jay, but at the end of the day, I don't think people. I think the people who are complaining are reading the tea leaves wrong, and they don't understand why Jay is over, and who this storyline is for, and why this storyline is working for those people. I likened it to when you look at a lot of, especially when you're an older fan, you're used to rock and roll, and in this instance, Jay is hip hop, and he's talking to a younger, and it's not just hip hop. He's talking to the kids who like the TikTok rappers, the kids who love the mumble rappers. We're just it's not for us, but it doesn't mean the story's bad. I think they're telling a good story. Jay is an underdog. Jay is the underdog. He needs to maintain that underdog status. The second Jay gets a little too up over Gunther, you kill the mystique of that story. Jay has to stay digging himself out of a hole, but also as a babyface, babyfaces need wins, which is why he's going to keep beating up Bebop and Rocksteady, Austin Theory and Grayson until it's time to get to the show. I think the only mistake that they have made and it's is that he really should be Kaiser should really be more of the thorn in his ass. This is where having a unified Imperium would have been ideal for them because Gunther is Imperium, Imperium is Gunther, and having to deal with Gunther's people, it gives you a better proxy than two guys who just happen to have a beef at the same time. Although again, those storylines were also fantastic in ECW. You know, or during Dusty booking. Technically, this is Dusty booking 101. You watch how those old NWA feuds used to flow. If the issue was Dusty Flair, beneath you had Arn and Tully and the Rock and Roll Express or whoever it was going to be, and then maybe you had one other guy here at the bottom, and something would happen where everybody would change dance partners for a little bit until it was time to get back to where we started. So it's again, just people need to kind of learn how to relax and learn how to re-enjoy the product again instead of constantly crying about it.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because in between your answer, I brought up the roast of WrestleMania because you say, "Oh, people need to relax." This is, and I laugh because this can only be done now. I'm guessing if this was done like in the '90s or the '80s, it's all fun and games. Tony Hinchcliffe till you have a new Jack, or Scott Steiner, or Haku, or Dr. D, David Schultz, or Taz, or I'm trying to think of someone, Rick Steiner, one of these guys getting, you're really making fun of me. And next thing you know, it's like Tony Hinchcliffe was assaulted and violated in 10 different ways. Details 11, with Haku just, beating up police officers, Scott Steiner trying to snap his arm, and all of us going, oh my God, what the hell's going on? So, what should we expect from this roast of WrestleMania?
I don't know. A bravo to them for wanting to do something different. It starts at 10, so will the show even be over at 10? the you know the It's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be interesting. The like I said, it's a different world now, man. We can be more open about how we discuss the product. You can do more experimental things with the product. Again, hats off to guys like Lawler and Jerry Jarrett, who who kind of had their finger on the pulse of making sure that wrestling always overlapped with different forms of entertainment. This is the love child of that mentality. I'm sure it's going to be funny. Tony Hinchcliffe is a bit of a wild card. He got introduced to the globe in as big a way as you could possibly get with some good old fashioned fake media outrage. So he's going to be outrageous. It's going to be entertaining. It's going to be what it's going to be. And also too, it's for the people who don't want to sit down and sit through the press conference, it's a nice alternative to kind of keep the night flowing. The And it's nice that they're doing something for the people who could not go to the show, right? Because there are a lot of people who are going to want to go who can't afford to go. And again, kudos to the WWE for always thinking outside of the box, for finding new and different ways to keep the fans involved. Because you're going to get to watch WrestleMania and talk about it and laugh about it, almost in an environment like where you're with your friends. And if someone winds up getting a chapped ass, they're going to get chapped ass. But also, too, these people are professionals. They're very well media trained. And so if anything does happen, hey, guess what, guys? It's a work. So let's
Well,
just, yeah,
he'd
let's
be
just
more
see where it goes.
reserved though. I mean, because it used to be we saw roasts all the time, and then the
Mhm.
last I'd say 6 or 7 years, we haven't got a lot of them. I mean, the Tom Brady one was the outlier. That's because hey, they paid him $25 million. So for $25 million, most people are like, okay, you want to make fun of me? Great, you pay me twenty
Mhm.
five million dollars. That can buy a lot of silence.
Well, so look at the political climate we've been in for the last, for really the last 6, 7 years. The we're in the no fun era. You can't. You just everything's off limits. Everybody gets butt hurt. Everybody wants to cry. And if it's not the person who's involved, then it's someone who's going to be offended for them. The Think about when was the last time we saw an actually great comedy? The fact that the roaster very slowly started to try to punch back, it means that we're actually healing. We also got to be honest too. Hey, we lost some of the guys who were actually really great at doing the roast, right? When you lost Greg Giraldo, and that dude was an anchor, you know. We lost Patrice O'Neill. You lost a lot. We lost a couple of actually genuinely fearless comedians who were not worried about their next big movie deal. They were in it for the love of the game, and it took a little bit of that to it took a little bit of recalibrating. Like listen, even Jeffrey Ross stopped doing the roast for a little bit, and he went on the other stuff. But again, I think a lot of it had to do with, he saw the change in the political headwind. So again, the fact that it's a roast, like, I think it's a good thing. It tells you that people are starting to stop taking themselves so seriously, or they're more willing to tell the Mrs. Broflovskis and the Karens of the world to shut the hell up. It's a good thing. I hope we see more of this. Again, I'm just curious to see what the hell it is he's actually going to be doing. But the other thing of it is that, hey, clearly he's a fan. This doesn't get put together unless the person is a fan of the product. And now we are in a space where you're starting to see A list celebrities, B-list celebrities, musicians, be more open about their love of the sport and wanting to participate. And that's great for sustainability, it's great for longevity, it's great for exposure. It's like I said, it's a good time to be a wrestling fan, so just shut up and have fun.
Well, this is where I think you and I are disagreeing here on fun. Yes, I'm expanding here. So Rhea Ripley lost her title.
Hmm.
Now getting Bianca Belair, Io Sky, and now once again, yeah, as my good friend BQ says, fake phony wrestling. Only in fake phony wrestling can you come in, sign a contract that your name is not on. Just declare yourself. Oh yeah, I'm now in this the title picture here. I
Yeah.
get it that they don't want to pull the trigger on Bianca versus Rhea straight up yet. They want to give that some build because to them that's the money fight. That is their Sasha Banks Bianca moment where it's like, okay, we can actually have a women's main event WrestleMania. How do they pull this off without Rhea being the villain? Because the fans want to cheer her. She's acting like a bitchy, whiner, and yet at the same time, it's like, okay, we have to do this here, but you don't want to turn Bianca heel yet. And Io is just, you can't turn heel because she can't do a promo. So how do they pull this off? And why are we here?
Well, listen, Rhea is the heel for the purpose of this storyline. Rhea is the heel. Rhea just happens to be a heel that everybody likes because she's an effing beast, right? The yes, Rhea versus Bianca has been the money match and should have been the money match for at least the last 2.5 years. It just happened that you needed to make space for it. The So now you're in an environment where you can kind of get it 2 years in a row without doing it 2 years in a row. I do personally think that the match either should have been Io versus Rhea or Io versus Bianca, and then just teased it somehow and given Bianca or Rhea something else to do because tactically, they do have other things that they can be doing. Bianca really should be being involved in this Trinity Jade story, not just tangentially, but hey, whatever, man. F it. There are a lot of people you got to get into the show, and sometimes you got to change it up, and not just do a regular old singles match. Because technically we have seen, although, well, I guess the only new match would be Rhea Bianca, but we've seen Io Rhea, we've seen Io Bianca. You've seen some variation of this match a bunch of times, so they want to do something a little different that has a little bit of different energy. I think Io is doing fine in terms of where it is that she needs to be with her promo. you know, I know we see things differently, but I'm like, hey, it's a global company. Not everybody is going to speak fluent English. We just have to get over that. We do. We just have to get over it. That's why you give these people managers and only let them speak when they need to speak. But that said, Io does great heel work because she is, for Americans, a foreign heel. But because she is so genuinely likable, um, her inability to speak English also gives her a little bit of an edge as a babyface because you want to root for her. You want to root for her. And Bianca is essentially the lady version of Hogan right now. So we're slowly punching our way through the Hogan Warrior, the girls edition. But it's gonna take a little bit of time to get there. I don't know why everybody's bitching about the picking up the contract and signing a thing. This has been a wrestling trope forever. The most egregious one being the Shawn Michaels Triple H Benoit one. I say at the very least, we got someone acknowledging that you can't do this. Pierce did a phenomenal job of scolding and wagging Rhea up the entire ramp by telling her that she couldn't do it. the so it's gonna be what it's gonna be. Also, too, Triple H has kind of silently done away with the automatic rematch. That the champions used to get. Like they get the rematch, but it isn't automatic. So technically, this is just Rhea saying she wants her rematch. Again, it's just I don't know. Like I
I
get
guess
it.
my problem with Io is I would have put there's two other people I would have put over her. Liv Morgan, who has killed it the last year, and last
Mhm.
year she wasn't even in WrestleMania last year. And the fact that she's carried the feud with Ray at times when Ray was injured here there, it's you got to give her credit. She is over like Rover. And Alexa Bliss, who both of them they've done everything. They've been a good soldier. Been given horse crap gimmicks at times. And yeah, it's almost like EO is sort of, well, and I get it, as you said, it's a global company. Nobody speaks Japanese unless you're from Japan. Nobody understands what you're saying. English, at least, everybody sort of understands it. So if you can't do a promo, and as you said, but the roster's getting so full that you can't have matches every week. If you can't do a promo, why put EO when it's like, okay, there's Liv, let's reward her for being the good soldier this whole year, or you know, Alexa Bliss, who has come back from everything and has been a good soldier for years, rather than it's like, oh, another NXT black and gold Triple H darling.
Well, once again, remember that Alexa is a Triple H Black and Gold darling. But the um with Alexa, they're still trying to figure out what her storyline is. Liv is playing a different. Liv is playing an important but different part for them right now. Yes, Liv has carried the division. They're using Liv's momentum to try to do something with those women's tag titles. Those tag titles have just been shit upon, and not on purpose. It's just because they suffer from two problems, and they're kind of contradictory, which is why they can't get this to work. They they don't have enough female tag teams, while also having too many girls. The and Vince turned around and broke up all the actual female tag teams. They turned around, and Triple H turned around and didn't do anything with the actual female tag teams he brought up from NXT. So they're it's like they have forgotten how to do tag team wrestling because they can't fit it in on the show when it comes to the girls, which again I keep screaming they need another show. They need a 1 hour show, just one hour show to do shit that you can't fit into Raw and SmackDown. And it's crazy that you can't fit in SmackDown because SmackDown feels every bit of its 3 hours. The but so yeah, they need Liv to put some of that heat on the tag titles. The Which is working, and she has a belt. The tag titles are the tag team titles are technically on the same level as the world championship or rather say that they're world championship adjacent because you are the best of the best in the company. You know, the so that's a lot of times why you see former world champions having the tag titles because you have to keep them elevated somehow. So that's why Liv isn't in the single spot. Um, Alexa, she just got back, and she didn't get back into anything super duper hot. They just didn't have a they. I honestly really think that it probably should have been Alexa versus Tiffany and just done the battle of the of the bitchy sorority girl thing. The because I don't know, man. This is why I don't I think they have aspirations doing this Wyatt Six bullshit. But again, it's just too many people, not enough show, and they're not being leveraged properly. And again, I don't think there's anything wrong with Io's promo. Again, she's better than serviceable. She's doing a better job than a lot of people who do speak English. It's just sometimes she's got to do a dumb, fun storyline. You know, the and that's just what this is. It's a dumb, fun storyline. It just is what it is. The Bianca and Rhea are gonna power move the shit out of each other, and Io's gonna go jumping off of some stuff. The and it'll all work itself out in the end. And then it'll pave the way for them to properly collide at next year's WrestleMania.
Well, speaking of dumb,
Oh,
not
Jesus.
fun. Yeah, we AEW. Just when you thought, hey, maybe they'll learn the lesson. Maybe they'll learn. Maybe somebody will get to Mox and go, hey, you know what? Sponsors didn't like the pizza cutter thing. Maybe we should, you know, wean off that. Nope, he doubles down. This week's AEW Dynamite. It was Moxley versus Cope in a street fight involving Moxley, as you saw, getting suplexed onto a barbed wire baseball bat nail baseball bat, and the nail sticking into his back. As yes, I'm getting as reportedly now sponsors for the show basically are not happy. You're not happy. I can already hear the
They,
words
they,
as I'm
they,
watching this going bullshit mud flap garbage wrestling.
no, that's all this. That's all this dog shit is. Listen, dude. Like, I am not one of these people who wants to immediately diminish the value of Cope and Moxley because they're not in the WWE. But there are some unshakable truths. The WWE is the biggest wrestling company on the planet and has been for 60 freaking years. You cannot outproduce and out showcase the machine. There's only one company that came close to doing it, and they only did it for how many weeks? Like they did it for a little over 2 years. The No one else has come close to matching it. When the WWE makes you a star, you are a global entity. When you go someplace else as a star, you are a star in that company. What AEW has bafflingly failed to do is be on one of the oldest cable networks, on two of the oldest cable networks with significant wrestling history, and tremendous social media exposure, and not secure a foothold into the public zeitgeist. They actually get openly mocked because again, I love that that quick video that they always show of the girl who says if you like wrestling gives me the icks, because the second part of that is no, people who like AEW. Right? So like that just kind of immediately tells you where everyone is on this stupid company. It's dumb. The Edge is not a star because no one watches the show. That is about it. This is like putting it'd be like it'd be like Jeter coming out of retirement and playing in playing in some minor league on some minor league roster somewhere deep, you know, you know, well, pull a Kenny Powers and go play baseball somewhere in Mexico that no one's going to see. It's still Derek Jeter out of retirement playing baseball and probably still being more than halfway decent at it. But guess what? No one's going to see it. So who cares? The the I just uh we got to be honest. Again, I always talk about it. Moxley was not Moxley is not on the level of Rollins and Roman because Moxley is not on the level of Rollins and Roman, and that's because he chose not to be. Moxley would rather go do his CZW mud show bullshit than put in the time, work, and effort into being a star. He'd rather cosplay being a star than actually going out to be a star, which is why he left, so that he can go do this mud show bullshit. Edge is there because they were willing to give him a lot of money and let him still be on TV, and he gets to go hang out with his friends. And at the same time, thought that he could go down there and do a little bit of good because, yes, the average veteran does want to give back. Even if they are a little burned and jaded, generally you do want to give back because you understand innately that you have to pass down what you learned to the next group of people so that the sport can actually continue to evolve and refine itself. So here we are, two massive names, WrestleMania main events under their belts, lots of people, lots of name recognition, and you have them doing a street fight that doesn't make sense because they already had their world championship match. Copeland has already gotten choked out 9,000 ways to Sunday. There, so this there's just no reason to be doing this. Um,
So the
you
Max
know,
Defenders, and I'm talking to them because they're going, hey, Kevin Apollo and Jim Cornette, you guys need to stop being the grumpy old men. This is what was big back in the day with Terry Funk and Bruiser Brody and Abdullah the Butcher. They were old school cats. This is what Dusty Rhodes used to do. There was bleeding. This is what John Moxley is. He is the modern day Terry Funk meets Bruiser Brody meets Dusty Rose. You're a hater, man. You're a hater, Kevin Apollo and
yeah.
Jim Cornette.
Anybody who says it needs to be slapped in their mouth because they don't know what they're talking about. They heard someone say it at one point in time before Moxley went out and exposed himself, and they've held on to it. Here's the difference between Moxley and Terry Funk. Terry Funk could throw a hell of a worked punch. Moxley cannot. So Terry Funk was a tremendous worker, a tremendous storyteller. And as he got older and became less capable, he reinvented himself until he became hyper proficient in what it was that he did. So if he wanted to throw a fireball, the dude was going to throw a fireball. And everything in the match centered around the fireball. And it was convincing. And he made it work. Even when, like, think about it. During the end of of one of his many retirements, he was 50 something and crazy in ECW and WWF, but still going out there and bumping his ass off. Sure, he got up a little bit slower, but yeah, did his punches looked awesome. Did it take him a little extra to get that suplex into the air? Sure, that's why he never really did it. But could he climb up to the top rope and do a moonsault onto you? Eff it, yeah, he was gonna do it. Why? Because he understood where his shortcomings were, and he knew where his strengths were, and he knew how to accentuate his strengths and hide his weaknesses. I cannot tell you a single strength that John Moxley has, other than he finally decided that he was going to go work out. So now he has something that vaguely resembles a body. The but his promos are all shit. He yammers on for 15 minutes, and it might accidentally sound good until you realize he didn't really say anything. Like there was nothing to cobble together that you could say, "Oh, I get the point of that." We don't know. He just He does that I'm mumbling to myself pop sky thing. It's like I don't what the hell is that? What the hell is that? The again, like Cornette says, matches all the fucking same. Duck a couple, throw some shitty punches, no one's gonna block, go to the outside, bump up the floor, and here comes the lame ass finish that you didn't do anything to build up to. The and now it's just like, what the fuck was the point of this? What was the point of this? You had a block of wood that, think about it. This is a murder weapon. This is a murder weapon. Like, at least with the dumb thing that Abyss had was wrapped in barbed wire, right? So hey, we're gonna be honest, right? It's a stunt performance. Not all those barbs are actually gonna tear you up. Slash, he never did what they tried to do with this thing, right? Or the person was very protected. The This was something that I keep saying it. This man could have died on live TV, right? Because if you bump just a little, you bump us a little too fast, or a little too hard, or the bat's a little higher up in the spine. He's fucked. And then you go into this dumb thing where you can't get the fucking nails out, and then their dumbasses don't cut the feed. Listen, at this point, Tony Khan has shown his ass. He is an incompetent mark. He's a sniveling little bitch. He is ineffective as a leader. He's ineffective as a thinker. This guy's supposed to be a data analyst, and he can't put together that what he's doing isn't working for his show. He doesn't have the stones to say, "Hey, that's a dumb fuck idea." He doesn't have the stones to hire people to say, "Hey, this is a dumb fuck idea, and you're not going to do it." And then back them up if someone does do it. He doesn't have the foresight to go, "Hey, this is on network television. That means everyone can see it. So, oh, maybe there'll be consequences with my few sponsors if something goes horribly wrong. Maybe there will be consequences with if a parent who doesn't know any better happens to see wrestling and just leaves it on, and now they have to explain to their 8-year-old why this moron has a bunch of nails sticking out of his back. This is this is um this is shit that even a backyarder wouldn't do if they were half intelligent. Uh, like it's just like what can you say other than what the fuck? Like dude, seriously, this is like the scene in Step Brothers when they're sitting at the table and they start crying and they throw up, and the mom just goes, "What the fuck?" It's this that's that guy with the horrible, horrified look in his face is what everyone else is doing, and the guy back here with the glasses and the beard laughing is the other half, because no one could believe that a grown ass man with kids was stupid enough to want to do something like this. And they probably can't believe that the person who signs the checks was stupid enough to let someone go do this without thinking there were fucking consequences. I'm so tired of having to talk about AEW and how much of a fucking shit show it is. It's not fun anymore. It's boring. Honestly, it's boring. It was boring. When I saw this happen, I just, well, of course this is what they did. Of course it happened this way. Of course it happened to this fucking idiot. The and of course we got to beat it to death. But think about it. This shit happens so often that really the outrage for it is fairly kind of muted because no one gives a shit anymore. No one legitimately cares.
Well, just when you thought. That's right. You thought that was bad. We're getting Beast Mordos, Harley Graham romance probably. According to AEW, what we've seen on TV, the Beast is smitten with Harley Graham. I can hear the anger. as you saw that going, wait a minute here. We're putting Harley Cameron, who has personality and is actually beautiful, in a mask. Why? I could hear the steam like coming out of your head as you wanted to just start. Let's, as the cool could say, choke a bitch.
Listen, I am not opposed to the storyline. I do love a good Beauty and the Beast storyline in wrestling. You know, I'm one of the few people who enjoyed the Balls Mahoney Kelly storyline because I got it. You know, the was devastated to find out that Vince canceled it because I was friends with someone who was there at the time and watched Dusty. Vince wasn't paying too much attention, showed up one day and was watching how all the storylines are playing out and saw one of the vignettes they were filming, and he was like, "What the hell is this?" And Dusty goes to explain why they're doing it and how much energy they put it, and Vince just goes, "Ugh, no one's gonna believe she's gonna fall in love with that fucking slob." Ugh, and then stormed off and killed the storyline. So, like Beauty and the Beast storylines, you gotta let them play out sometimes. I don't understand why you would listen. I think this said it best. Clearly, this was an instance where Harley was probably backstage, put on the mask, and said, "Look, I'm a Harley Graham," and it was in Tony's earshot, and now we're running with it. The I would say normally I would say, hey, let's see this play out, but it's AEW. We know they're gonna fuck it up, and it's gonna go nowhere, and it's gonna land with a fucking splat. So I'm not even gonna waste a lot of time trying to break this down. It's not a bad idea, but we already know it's gonna be executed poorly. It's just gonna be executed very poorly.
Again,
Slash, I would have never done this camera angle because you just told the fucking planet that the Beast Mortos is a midget.
again, I'm saying this again. It it helps when you can speak English. I mean, when one person speaks English, the other person does not speak a word of English, and it's not helping. I mean, I get it. As you said, wrestling is a global thing, but the majority of people who watch and pay for all this stuff are American who speak only English. And one guy, Beast Mordos, is in the mask, doesn't speak English. I mean, I'm just sitting there like, how?
How, how do you convey this story?
Yeah,
Well,
how are they
that's why
supposed to communicate when one doesn't understand the other properly?
you know what I would do honestly? I would have
Pictograms?
well, I would the best way to do this is you have you have Harley be infatuated with the Beast Mortos and you let her be the translator, and then you later find out that she's lying to the audience, and that the Beast Mortos wants absolutely nothing to do with her, but she's telling everybody that he wants her, and let the storyline play out from there, and just have fun with it. Other than that, this is why managers are so important because in an instance like this, you need a narrator to tell everybody what's going on. I don't care if the actual wrestler can't speak English at the moment, but you have to give them someone who is a capable mouthpiece. The and also you have to protect their size. I think this is just bizarre that you have because Harley isn't a giant. Harley's a taller athletic woman, but by no means is she like in Charlotte territory where she's at 6 feet. The your male wrestler shouldn't be being in danger of being exposed. It's just a bad visual. Like it's just a bad visual. This is a terrible shot. Someone really should have thought about that. But whatever. Short guys can wrestle too. We love Taz. But yeah, there's just I don't know. There's a thousand ways to do the story. I'm telling you right now, don't waste your time getting upset or overthinking it because it's AEW. And at this point, I'll say whatever you think you would do with the storyline, it's gonna be better than what they're gonna do.
Well, let's go with something very positive, and that is Homicide retirement. He's bad news is he has a cyst in his brain, so that's why he's retiring. The good news is he's walking out on his own accord,
Hmm.
and I know you've worked with him. I know for those who don't, like, how big has he been on the indie scene, TNA, and what is his legacy? Because we talk about that a lot with wrestlers. Like, this will be his last match. You're being a part of it, promoting it. So for the guy who's only a Fed, doesn't know who the hell Homicide is, why is he important?
Dude, Homicide is one of those guys, we've talked about it before. Um, you're one of those journeyman talents, right? Where they've done a lot, they've seen a lot, and they have a lot of knowledge to give you. Um, the only thing that sucks, like Homicide just never made it to the WWE, which kind of sucks, but he has made an impression everywhere he's gone, right? He is, for all intents and purposes, a legendary figure in ROH. He killed it in TNA. Back when people loved TNA. He listen, he helped make Hernandez. He helped make Santana and why am I brain farting the other one's name?
Ortiz.
Ortiz, yeah. So like um the how dude, it's just Homicide's a tremendous talent that I think with the way we consume wrestling now will be more appreciated by future fans than he is right now, and he has a lot of appreciation from the fandom who knows who he is. A very versatile performer, a hell of a promo, always great passion, great energy, you know, and if you got to know him on the indies, was a guy that if he liked you, um, want to bat for you, and did a lot of stuff for younger guys. So it's I partner with Bull James, formerly Bull Dempsey, on a lot of shows. The Coliseum Sports Attractions is the main brand of the company. So it's pretty cool that that we're promoting the show. The so it's and this is it's a big night for Bull because Homicide was really close to Bull. Helped him with a lot of stuff. The And it's just, yeah, man, it sucks me to see someone who still has a lot to give go away, but the fact that he gets to go away on his own terms is really freaking cool, man. It's really cool. So, like I said, I think, because of things like YouTube, YouTube and the streaming services, and even Amazon, Pluto, blah blah blah. I think people will, the modern audience will get to see more of Homicide and understand why he's so appreciated and why this is such a big deal, in the years to come. Listen, he even did all he could for NWA. All he could for NWA. Second they said they were gonna roll out whatever the territory system's gonna be, Homicide was out there advocating for certain northeast feds, to get a sniff. The this is a guy that like, has tremendous talent, tremendous mind. Sucks to see him go, but again, it's awesome he's going on his own terms.
I remember him from LAX Dudley Boy, the Team 3D, where they did a lot of great. It wasn't just the wrestling; it was the promos, it was the angles, it was. And I know from BQ of Negative BQ said Homicide's a real guy. Like when you see a lot of pro wrestling, it's like okay, they're phonies, and it's not mean to be meant to be mean. It's just this is not how these guys talk in real life. This is not how these guys would be. They aren't like real people, like an R-Truth in real life or a Gunther in real life. Homicide came across real. Like this is a guy who he is who he is inside outside the ring. Does WWE need that or TNA? I mean, if you're Anthem, if you're Triple H, do you bring a Homicide in as a manager, as somebody part of creative to go, hey, look, we need to get guys so that the casuals can sort of see, like, okay, these guys can relate, especially now that we're seeing more Cody and Mike Santana take the reins because people see them as okay, they're real relatable people. Can that be Homicide's second career?
I, I mean, it depends on depends on the physical. Like to me, like Homicide would be great as someone down at the the performance center. The problem is you're gonna want to see him wrestle. The Homicide just unfortunately happened to be he caught fire um a little when he was a little too old during the Vince era, and he was locked down in contract. So you weren't going to get the opportunity to see him in NXT. The Because like it just sucks. Like one of those, it's like one of those weird timing things where you know it it probably could have played out differently if things were different. You know, I don't. It's interesting. I mean, no one ever really truly goes away. It's really probably more of a matter of what he wants to do. You know, the I'm sure if the WWE said, "Hey, do you want to come down here and be a coach?" They might go for it. But also at the same time too, you have to still be able to pass that physical. If you're going to be doing anything in the ring, you still have to be approved by their doctors. Even if you're not bumping all the time, you still have to show. You still have to display. Display and be able to go at a moment's notice. Only a very few. There's very little that you can do when teaching someone how to do this that doesn't involve you having to display it. Unless you have someone with you who's there and is competent and can say, "Hey, do this for me," right? Because yes, we all know, Johnny Rods isn't going out there and bumping on the canvas at his advanced stage, right? The the but um Yeah, yeah, I know it's a possibility. It's a possibility. I wouldn't dismiss it. I wouldn't dismiss it. And if hopefully he does get some kind of a big opportunity like that. Because again, it sucks, man. This is a guy who still had a lot to give. So it's just unfortunate that the timing of everything didn't afford him the size of a spotlight that he should have gotten.
What was your favorite moment from dealing with him? Because you're passive cross. I'm guessing you didn't ever wrestled him, per se, but you worked with him. So,
Yeah,
what's your
just
favorite moment of Homicide?
I mean, for me, we just had a couple conversations. That was about it. He was on a couple of shows that I promoted for someone. The And then there was a spot here in Jersey where he wrestled out of often. So he would just kind of sit in the back and just kind of like make fun of shit and bullshit. But I think personally my favorite Homicide moment is probably it's not for the good reason. It's when Impact went live on Monday nights and they threw them in the cage and he was doing everything in his power to escape from that damn cage. The And it was probably he had such a phenomenal match, but just one of those like weird only in TNA, only in TNA, only with Russo booking could you find a way to make you know botch the finish. I can't even remember what were they even trying to do in the cage, right? It wasn't an escape from the cage. It was oh God, you know what I'm talking about? That first Monday night TNA,
Yeah, where it's almost like they have to put the belt on top of like
right?
it's either like a
You know,
reverse ladder match where we have titles. We have put the titles on in the cage on top of the ladder to be champions. Like okay,
yeah, right. So and he it's like watching his mind go through all the options on how to make this stupid concept work. Because at the point I had already been wrestling, so it was just interesting to see um someone legitimately trying to save this on the fly, but having no good options. Other than that, man, when LAX first popped up and they were just absolutely obliterating people, and the promos he was cutting while Hernandez was just manhandling folks. Dude, it was incredible, man. It was incredible. The It's I tell you, go back and watch those old TNAs. Because I personally think that I think his TNA era was better than his ROH era, but he had much bigger singles run in ROH, but I don't think he really truly came into his own, until he was in TNA and was able to do slightly bigger things. But dude, man, like, again, the guy's a legend, man. The Doghouse. If you wanted to wrestle, and if you could get to them, the Doghouse only produced gladiators. That was a tough badass school. All those dudes were just as tough as nails. Um, Man, if actually, what I should have done, if I known we were gonna talk about Homicide, I would have tried to link you up with Crazy Ivan, because Ivan was a Doghouse guy, and Ivan has nothing but Homicide stories, man. And Ivan was one of the guys that I attribute to my training. Again, it's the same tough as nails mentality. Move 1,000 miles an hour. Don't fuck it up. If you fuck it up, you're probably gonna catch a real blow. And you've got one or two options: either be a bitch and cry about it, or you wait and give your receipt. And learn how to operate at that high speed, in a chaotic kinetic environment. And unfortunately, that mentality doesn't really exist anymore. You've heard me bitch about it before. You got guys who are whining and crying because someone was snug with them, not even stiff, just snug. I was like, bro, this is a sport where we hit people very hard in safe places. If you can't take it, you're doing the wrong thing. So it's sad when one of those when some of the old guard gladiators are punching out when they still had when they still have more to do.
Before, I know we're pressed time and you have a lot to do, but let's talk about this. Mike Santana is now becoming the star of TNA. A lot of people say he is what Homicide was, except maybe a little bit bigger, a little more physically built, and because of the culture, that's where we're going. Why is that happening now? Like, what has changed from? And this isn't like back in the 80s or 90s. Like, Homicide was around the 2010 era. So why is it now that we're seeing a guy like Mike Santana, even Dominic Mysterio, become bigger, when back in the day it was like, okay, they look like maybe like the Mexicools, maybe even comedy act, but now it's almost like, hey, these guys are now the future. Like, how Mike Santana is now and Dominic Mysterio are now sort of popular, wrestlers and characters.
Well, with Dominic's heel work. I mean, listen, we're still watching Dominic learn and grow, like, on the road live, right? The and seeing Dominic from where he first started, when he was the little puffy cheeked baby face. I'm happy to be here, morph into the character that he is, the promo that he can deliver, and the wrestling that he does. It's Dominic is super duper over because we have watched him grow. We watched him grow. And we watched, and as he's growing and getting older, the audience is growing and getting older with him. So there's a air of familiarity there you can't that's not something that you can manufacture. It's very organic. Um, so I still, again, he's still very young, but I think if Dominic does something where he has to take a little time off and he comes back with some muscle on him, I think that's when you see Dominic kind of leapfrog to the next level. The you know Santana, you know same thing. They put a lot of time into TNA, right? So there's a lot of history there. TNA fans know who he is. Um, it's one of the things where I always kind of tell everybody, like, as we kind of watch like something like the WWE roster was as big as it is. When people kind of crow and whine about, like, how come you're not doing something with Theory, blah 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 blah. When you have the younger guys, right? They need to go through their paces. They need to kind of find themselves as a character. They need to put in the time, and and just kind of, just kind of, I guess for lack of a better word, kind of marinate in that environment. And when they're ready, like if something happens where, like, they go away for a little bit, when they come back and it's time to reinvent the character, because they put all that time in, although they're someone new, they're still very familiar to you. So they have the ability to try and do different things, new things. They've earned the ability to evolve as a character, and that makes it so that you accept them that much faster, right? Because it's just human nature to gravitate towards what's familiar to you. So, I've got a guy I've been watching on my TV for the last 6 years, and all of a sudden he comes back and it's something new. I'm going to respond to him a little bit faster, assuming he does it right. Right, we're going to keep everything in a nice, neat bottle and assume that, like, they do everything right. The versus someone who's brand spanking new. Like, everybody loves new and shiny, but it's always old home week whenever someone pops back from an environment that they've kind of grown up in. With Santana, again, that version of LAX was very, came along at a very pivotal time for Impact/TNA. They did a lot of really big things. They had some of they probably had some of the most compelling stories that centered around them, and especially when it came time for, the clash of the LAXs, the dumping Homicide, even the stuff with Conan, and then going over to AEW, and then, they were in a high profile storyline for a really long time when they were with Jericho. People like to crap on Jericho, but I will at least give Jericho this: when AEW first started, Jericho did put a bunch of people on the map. He did make a bunch of names. And yes, rightfully so, he did go over, because guess what? He was the marquee name for that roster. So he did what he should have been doing. The so when Santana leaves and goes back to TNA, he's coming back in a bigger and better position than he was when he left. So it's natural that you want to maximize, well, actually, yes. As much as I always say, AEW is where you go to lose your equity. Because of Jericho, Santana left with a little more equity on his name. So you go back to TNA, and it's time to kind of cash in. Also too, listen, we've seen it. You know the younger gen, they come a little smaller, right? They're built a little smaller. They're not like the old school guys, like beefy mass monsters. So it's a little easier now to let them kind of go compete at, especially at a higher paced, kind of a match. But again, look at Santana. Like, he's packed on muscle. It's again, the environment's right. He put his time in. He paid his dues. It's time to let the new character kind of shine a little bit, and it's a good move, because also too, TNA has had a lot of turnover. You need new energy, but new energy from a familiar face is always good. I think like when a TV show is in its later seasons, and an old fan favorite who's been gone for a little bit comes back, it has a habit of injecting new life and energy. Or rather say, it has a habit of injecting new energy and excitement in for the fan base, because you know, hey, what's happened with this character while he's been gone? What are the changes? He's still the same guy, but he's also a little different. Where's this gonna go? What are we gonna do? That's kind of what's happening with this character right now in TNA. You needed a new baby face, you need new energy, you need new fire, and he's delivering that right now.
So should that be Homicide's future then? To start teaching people that, because it's tough. You could teach a move, and after a while, you do a move 5,000 times, and they get it. After a while, if you can teach somebody how to stand in front of a camera, they can get that. Teaching people authenticity, teaching people how to relate to a generation now which likes more real, like Mayans, Sons of Anarchy, Breaking Bad. Those are more real people. Homicide play that. Now that we've seen Dominic, now that we've seen, you know, Santana, now that we've seen even Cody, start thriving because they are more real people. Should that be Homicide's next role, where he goes to WWE, TNA, does classes and teach people, hey, look, you want to get over? You need to be real. No more of the, carny stuff. We need people who can resonate with people, who can relate to you, can go, I understand this person because I see people like this in real life.
I mean, the authenticity is not a new thing. The we've been away from the era of the super gimmicky nonsense, like the guys who are wrestling, but they also have another profession. That's been gone for a while. The best wrestlers, the guys who are the most over, are the guys who are essentially themselves, but with a certain aspect of their personality turned up a little bit. There's a reason why Stone Cold Steve Austin is bigger than Stunning Steve Austin. Stone Cold is being himself. There's a reason why The Rock is bigger than Rocky Maivia. You know, Even Kurt Angle. Kurt Angle was still Kurt Angle. You just got to see a different side of him, but it was a side that was there. You had this cyborg ruthless killing machine who was also a freaking comedic genius. The it's Homicide. Homicide was Homicide. Again, New Jack was New Jack. That's why people responded, because they were also different than what you were getting. The I guess for well, it kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier with Jay, right? It's there. These are we're talking about folks who deviate from what the norm is. So, like, again, if the norm is, we need to keep it simple. If the norm is rock and roll, hip hop, it's hip hop, so it's different. It's the same energy. It's just a different version of it. Um, when they talk, they tell you, I'm going to do X, Y, Z. Well, you feel it because they mean it when they say it. You know, look at you know, look at your average Dr. Death promo, your average Dave Schultz promo. Dave Schultz told you he was going to hurt somebody. You thought he was going to hurt somebody. You know, the I remember I think we watched it on Toonie Town. They did an old TNT promo where they were in his house and he's screaming at the wife and the kid. And when that promo aired, um, people were calling the cops all over Tennessee because they were convinced that Dave Schultz was beating everybody in the house. And we're talking about just we're talking about a dumb segment, on the WWE talk show. The New Jack, people wouldn't let New Jack in the buildings because they were afraid the New Jack was actually to kill somebody. Sure, New Jack may have very well killed somebody, but like, those are, case point, when Shane Douglas shook Gary Wolf in the Halo, right? Like, they worked it, but guess what? Gary Wolf was still attached to the Halo, and it was so high up that he could have been paralyzed. The fact that they did it almost legitimately got Shane Douglas murdered. The people respond to real. People want real, and the one of the things that I like to tell the younger wrestlers is, as production value has increased so much, right? Be like a 1080p, 4K, blah 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 blah, bigger, bolder lights. What people want is visceral. They want a visceral feel from what they're watching. So, like, instead of pulling out the Mega HD 8K camera, pull out your cell phone and have a real conversation. Because why? You're going to get fantastic quality from your phone, but not as good a quality as what you're getting if you're using a major production camera. So that automatically makes it a little more real. It's dirty. It feels a little dirtier. It feels a little more gritty. And then if you're having a real conversation with somebody and you can convey that you're actually pissed off, well, people understand emotions. People respond to emotions, right? So, like, if you're just talking like how people talk in the street. That resonates. Instead of going on some Shakespearean soliloquy about how you're gonna have an epic battle in 3 weeks, and one shall stand, one shall fall. If you turn around and go, I'm gonna fuck you up this next time I see you. Hey, what are you gonna respond to faster? And that was the power. That was the power of the Homicide promo, of the New Jack promo, of the ECW Dudley's promo, of Taz, of Austin. Speaking to people the way people speak, in a way that they respond to it, because you're being your authentic self. There is no substitute for that. Not every character can do that, though. Some characters do have to carry themselves a certain way. Not all personalities are like that, right? Like, the it's like I'll put it like, so, like, if Seth Rollins is gonna come out on TV next week and be like, "Hey, bro, I'm coming to your house. I'm gonna stomp you. I'm gonna f you up." You're gonna get out of here, bro. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. You're a Midwest nerd. The But so he has to cut his promo a little differently. Um, and you have to do a little bit more to get to people to that place where they accept, like, when he's like during the Riddle feud. During the Riddle feud, actually, I think that was the probably some of the best stuff they got, right. The Rollins says the thing about his about Riddle, with whatever, and his wife, and then it immediately breaks down, right. It got real for a second. They start cursing the way people curse, in real conversation when people get pissed. And again, it triggers a visceral reaction that, you're immediately drawn to it. The Not everybody can do that all the time, but again, the names that I listed, generally, whenever they spoke, you believed it. If Homicide said, "I'm coming to your house, and I have a hammer in my pocket, and as soon as I open up the door, I'm going to smash you in the face with it," yeah, he probably means it in the moment. And yeah, he probably does have a hammer in his back pocket. And yeah, if he sees you, he is gonna hit you with it. So, don't be around. But that, I that's that's the meat and potatoes of it, if that makes sense. I know I said a lot.
Well, that's why we love having you on. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, we always love having on the show. I give you the man who's not afraid to pull any punches, take no dives. And well, Tim Waltz, he's throwing up a challenge. You said he could beat up any Trump supporter, MAGA supporter. He's willing. He'll even make sure that you get the first headlock and first shot. Of course, he's also said he will take that baseball bat that with the nails that Moxley has and start swinging for the fences. So that probably won't happen. I gave you Kevin Apollo. So, Kevin, before we let you go, where can fans check out the next show? Because you were teasing for the last couple of months. Hey, we have a big show in ACW coming up here. So, when is it happening? Where can fans check it out? What do you have in store for us?
Well, first and foremost, go to the Outlaw Wrestling Instagram and YouTube, and try to support them as they do this farewell event for Homicide. Also, too, just there have been some little changes to the schedule, but so ACW is going to relaunch May 17th, and we're going to run the third Saturday of every month until December. That doesn't include whatever mall shows we've got coming up. I'll have a date for the Middletown Mall soon, Palisades, and I think at some point in time, probably next summer, we'll be going to a new mall, an outdoor mall. So that'll be exciting. And I'm working on getting a couple of minor league baseball stadium shows. Still waiting on some confirmation on on some things. So there's some big stuff coming. Just be patient. I know it's been kind of quiet on the ACW Instagram. Was it ACW_Coliseum? It's been a little quiet there, but I'll have some content. I'll have some content. Things like that soon. We're gonna start putting up the last year, the last couple of years of events, and getting everybody kind of prepared for a big return. So it's gonna be, you got a lot of fun stuff coming. So ACW_Coliseum, on Twitter, on Instagram. And I think, same thing. We're easy to find on Facebook. Yeah, if not, just follow me. Wardog Apollo on Twitter and Instagram, and I'll catch you when you need me back here again.
Kevin Apollo, ladies and gentlemen, once again, always on a pleasure to have you on the show. We come back. We got a lot more going on here, only on its Last Call. Last Call with the Alcohol, only on the Last Call YouTube channel.